Welcome back, guys, to the channel. So in this episode we're going to be talking about the fuel system. So I do have to redo the entire fuel system since we're going to be running a turbo. Bigger pump, bigger injectors, new fuel and fuel line and all that. For starters, we have, so on the fuel injectors, I installed them, but they're Deca Siemens 65 pound 630 cc injectors. Also I got a DishWorks fuel filter and a DishWorks pump, and an ethanol sensor since we will be running ethanol. So this is pretty much everything that I'm going to need to pretty much redo the whole fuel system, make sure that it's E85 compatible, and make sure that it's going to be able to keep up with the power that we're going to be making. Okay, so first steps first. On the fuel system, I'm going to go ahead and do everything that I need to do on the inside of the car. So that includes the fuel pump relay, and all that stuff. So first of all, I need to remove this seat. I really won't go through too much detail. You just have to pull up, and you can pull it out. I just use the magic of YouTube, and it's done. So underneath all this, I mean, yours isn't gonna, most of these cars aren't gonna have this. The previous owner installed some subs, but regardless, underneath this insulation, we can just pull this stuff to the side, and your fuel pump's gonna be on this side, underneath this. Once that's all the way to the side, I mean, we don't really need much access to anything else. Everything that we need is underneath here. So let's get these bolts out, and we'll continue from there. So I am actually surprised at how clean this whole thing underneath this car is. Usually the sound deadening on these cars is completely gone or just moldy. This one's actually in pretty decent condition, so it kind of makes me happy because I know that the rest of the car is in good condition as well. Okay, so now with the cover off, now we have full access to the whole fuel pump, all the fuel lines, everything that we need to do underneath here. We will have to replace all these lines right here because all these rubber lines, although they do seem in good condition, we're going to be running ethanol, and initially it'll be okay, but if you run ethanol over an extended period of time with these lines, it'll just corrode them and they'll just collapse pretty much. So we got new E85 safe line to attach to this whole system, and I'll be talking about that here shortly. So first course of action is going to be just disconnecting all the lines so I can pull this hanger assembly out and replace the fuel pump in it. So kind of ran into a snag. I completely forgot that I had an early model E30, so the fuel pump is completely different to the late model. I don't really know if I can make this work, but we're gonna see if, I don't know, somehow it'll fit. So although it will fit, the biggest problem that we run into is that there's nothing supporting it at the bottom, so it would just be literally hanging like that, which is a big no-no. So I'm definitely gonna order the hanger and continue from there. Okay, so it's another day now. In the previous statement, I had said that we can't use the original hanger, but after looking through forums and digging up some information, I figured out we actually can use this hanger assembly, so I retract the previous statement. The only thing is we have to do a few modifications because we are switching from a 2-pump system to a single pump system. So on early model E30s, most of them had a low pressure fuel pump inside the tank, and then they have another one that's in line. We're going to be converting it to a single pump just inside the tank. That, I think, is the best solution, especially for my power goals with this car. So first things first is we got to address the issue of this new pump being a little bit bigger than the original pump. So not only is it a higher output pump, but it's actually taller as well, as you can see there. The original pump is really dinky compared to this one. The only problem with that is that it's going to sit much lower. And basically what I did is, and again I saw this all on a forum, I read up on it, this is the route that I'm going to be taking. Seems the simplest and honestly the one that works the best. But so what you need to do is on the hanger assembly, you have this tube right here that normally connects to the pump right here on this. So what we need to do is for it to sit correctly. So normally it would sit like this at this specific height. As you can see, I've cut about an inch, maybe an inch off of this tube right here, and that will allow us to slip this on and it'll sit at the same height, or at least somewhat similar to it. Then I can just put on 2 hose clamps and hold that in place just so it doesn't fall out. I'm going to use the stock reducer just because, another issue is that this is going to be a lot bigger than the one that goes on the actual fuel pump, which is the same case as the original, so not really that big of a deal because, again, you have the reducer. So again, that will slip over this piece right here, and we can just hose clamp it there, and we can worry about the wiring in a minute. So next step on making this fuel pump work is the connector, of course. So the connector just plugs into that right there, but we need to wire these up so that it gets power and ground correctly, how it's supposed to. On E30 fuel pumps, early E30 fuel pumps, the power is actually the black wire that goes up to the connector up here, the white connector. So we'll just wire the red up to that, and then on these it's kind of weird because the actual ground on the original fuel pump comes off of this terminal, which is the ground, of course, and it grounds to the actual pump right here with a bolt and a nut, or a speed nut as they call it. So what we'll do is we'll probably just wire we'll put a ring eyelet to this ground here, and then from there we can actually ground it to the pump again, like on the stock setup. That way we know that everything here is the same way that I took it off, just with the new connector wired up. I forgot to mention is be really careful, because if you just pull this literally out of the fuel pump, it's gonna have fuel all over this thing, and if you do use the lighter on these, you can start fires. So just be really careful. Again, it's been sitting for a couple days, so I'm not worried about it, but we should be all set. So like I said, power goes up to this piece that's on the terminal right here for the plug, and ground is just a ring eyelet that we're going to attach to this piece right here, so grounding it to the fuel pump hanger assembly. Once you've cut about an inch off of this piece, then you can just slip the reducer into this piece like this, maybe, yeah, like that, and we can plug this piece in. That'll hook that up like that, and then we'll just ground this piece to this. I'm gonna zip tie most of these wires because I wanted to keep them long just in case I messed up or something didn't go the way I wanted it to. I can just zip tie these to the actual hanger assembly, and then we can just zip tie the pump to this. I think with the zip ties and these 2 fuel injection hose clamps, I don't think it'll be going anywhere. You can add a sleeve onto this as well if you wanted to. I might decide to do that here in the near future, but for now this'll have to do. Okay, so now that we've finished up the fuel pump, I'm going to move on to the stuff that's in the actual engine bay. First of all, we got to mount the fuel filter. Right now I'm just mocking it up just to see where would be the best position, but it looks like there is a mounting bolt down there, or a hole, from the previous filter or previous whatever was on here. So I'm going to use that, and I'm just going to tap the other one into here and put a nutsert and then put a bolt through it, and then we'll continue after that. first line made up. This one's going straight to the fuel rail up here. It's going to be the feed. Now we just got to make the line that goes from the filter to the hard line, and then all the return lines and the flex fuel sensor. It goes from the feed to the fuel filter, and then the fuel filter, the AM line that we already made, will go straight to the fuel rail. Now time to get started on the return side. The flex fuel sensor has to go right after the fuel pressure regulator on the return side. Basically, this is going to be the setup. It's going to be 180 degree up to the regulator, and then from this side down to the hard line. I'm thinking about mounting it somewhere along the lines of here. That way it'll go straight to the return line like that. So yeah, that'll work. We basically finished up all the fuel system in the engine bay, have the flex fuel sensor mounted, have the fuel rail pretty much connected to where we need it, have all the lines cut and everything. The fuel pump is installed inside the car. The only thing that's left on this specific car, just because it's an early model, is removing the secondary fuel pump, which is underneath the along the chassis underneath the car. I'll show you guys here real quick. So as you guys can see, that right there is the fuel pump, the secondary fuel pump. So basically we just have to remove that and just tee all the lines together and make sure that the return is in the return, the feed is at the feed, and that should be okay. Now the reason we're removing it is because now we have the 340 liter per hour fuel pump, so we won't need this one anymore. If anything, it'll just cause a resistance point there. So we'll just run direct lines from E85 lines straight from these hard lines here all the way up to the sending assembly in the fuel tank. Okay, so now that we've loosened the pump completely off of there, man, that was kind of a bitch just because all these bolts are so rusted. Now we need to take off the ring terminals that connect the fuel pump there and back there as well. So this little thing here. Once we do that, then we'll just like heat shrink these just to keep them from grounding or making contact or anything like that, have any electrical issues. Then after that, we can just disconnect the fuel line that's up there. It's kind of hard to see it, but it's right there. Then we can just pull off the fuel pump and start running our new E85 lines. Took a solid minute, but oh man, leaking fuel everywhere. But anyways, this is what it looks like basically. Just a line coming up from the fuel tank, from the fuel pump center assembly, going through this. I think it's a filter, but I'm not 100% sure. Then it goes through here. This is the fuel pump, pulls it in through here, goes back out the feed line, the steel feed line up to the engine bay. So again, I don't really think we're gonna need this. I might throw it away, but I'll keep it around for right now. But since that's done, now we can continue to see how we're gonna route our lines. This is honestly, oh man, I'm laying in fuel now. Dang it, that sucks. But anyways, so now we can, again, we're just gonna heat shrink these and move them out the way, keep them out, just maybe zip tie them to like the frame or something, I don't know that. But this one is the one that we need to run new. So yeah, let's see how we can do that here. I ended up pulling it up from the top, so no grommet or anything. That's actually quite nice. I was actually kind of worried that this would be kind of a process, but I guess that answers that question. So now let's get the new line. If I even have it out here, it might be inside. It's probably inside. Yeah, let me get it. So the one that I decided was kind of like the appropriate size, because this is a metric line. This is the AN line. So dash 8 AN. I think that's going to be the correct size, at least for this application. It might be a snug fit, but we can always make it work. Okay, so now with removing the fuel pump that used to be right here, we've created another issue. So let me see if I can get it into position here. So basically, this is about 1/2 inch in diameter, and the pipe that it's going to is about 3/8. So it's not gonna fit. So what we need to do is put one of these adapters that goes from 1/2 inch to 3/8 in line in between that and also to the line, and that should solve our problem. That'll put it directly to the feed instead of having that fuel pump in the way. So this is the final result. Should look something like this. The line coming up from the fuel tank up there, then to the adapter, and then straight to the hard line. So yeah, that is pretty much it on that. I think the only one left that we have to do is this top one here. So that's pretty much it on the fuel system. Of course, you know, have to do the fuel pump relay to get enough voltage to it, but that'll be later after I start it. I'm pretty hyped though, because it's starting to come out looking like an actual car now. So hopefully one of these days it will turn on. Maybe in the next video, but who knows. But thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.